Save scumming is defined as the act of regularly saving your game and reloading that save whenever you don't like the current situation. It's the act of playing God and stepping out of your character to cheese results to be more favorable. Now let me preface this discussion by saying that whatever you do in your own games, however you decide to play them, as long as you're enjoying yourself, no one can really tell you that you need to do something a different way to have a good experience. I know that some of you in this community probably save scum so much that over 50% of your in-game time is replaying the same exact scene over and over. You absolute Just kidding. And the title of this video is of course also a joke, or is it? The only time where your philosophy on save scumming could actually prove to be a bit of a problem is if you're playing multiplayer and the people that you're playing with don't have the same save scumming philosophy that you do. In today's video, I'm going to tell you why I'm personally choosing not to save scum in Baldur's Gate 3, at least on my first playthrough. Well, I should say 99% of the time I don't plan on save scumming. I'll talk about what that 1% of the time could potentially be towards the end of the video. Now, subsequent playthroughs, I usually don't care nearly as much because the goals of those playthroughs are usually different from the first playthrough for myself. On many of the subsequent runs, I'm actually looking to really test things out for fun and almost like a game tester would. And I'm also trying to ensure that I experience content that I did not experience on my first run, which many times will actually require save scumming to do. So my number one reason for choosing not to save scum in BG3 is because I really want my choices and actions to have real consequences. Playing BG3 without save scumming means that if I do something morally wrong, such as pickpocketing, or I make a mistake, let's say I'm careless with an AoE spell, or perhaps I demonstrate poor judgment by trying certain dialogue skill checks against someone who's a rather straight shooter. Knowing that those actions, those choices, those mistakes and failures can have real in-game consequences that I have to deal with, makes those choices that I make carry much more weight behind them. And this in turn adds greatly to my personal engagement levels in a game, and also its overall immersiveness. Pickpocketing becomes an actually intense situation because I know that if I F up, I'm gonna pay for it. I'm not going to just let myself reload my way out of it. I'm allowing there to be actual risk versus reward. Knowing that if I carelessly cast dangerous spells in friendly areas, that it could turn some people hostile against me, makes me more interested in truly understanding and learning my spells, and it also makes me more aware of my surroundings while I'm playing. Knowing that if I intentionally attempt to deceive someone and it doesn't work, that character may actually lose trust in me and not treat me the same way that they did before, it makes that dialogue interaction much more exciting as I have to weigh the potential risk versus reward. Now, the reason why I'm talking about BG3 specifically in this video is because some games do seem to reward only certain types of players that take certain paths in the game. But with Baldur's Gate 3, especially from a story standpoint, Larian seems to be creating a game that will support whatever type of player you are. There's several different permutations that have been built into the game, and whatever path you do end up going down should offer high quality content to go with it. So it's not like if you don't get the result you want or were hoping for that the rest of the game is going to just suck. In fact, it could prove to be the exact opposite. Once you understand that, the initial frustration of not getting what you want in a situation every time can change from, crap, I gotta reload the game now, to, well, damn, it's gonna be interesting to see what happens now. When you finally complete your first adventure, your first playthrough, your story will have been full of ups and downs, intense moments that you likely won't ever forget. You're going to have felt a real sense of in-game accomplishment. You have lived a story that will be told for generations to come in taverns across the Sword Coast. And I don't think I could say the same if I save scummed my way through the entire game. I'm really interested in my first playthrough feeling as real and immersive as possible. I'm even okay with events playing out such as companions leaving my group or my camp because of my actions, or maybe just something happens in the world that causes them to do something that I didn't expect or didn't want them to do. I'm okay with that happening because that feels real. Perhaps even one of them could die in a way that I can't just use a resurrection scroll on them. I'm going to allow that to happen. And allowing these things to occur and knowing that I'm not going to just play God and stop things from playing out by rewinding the game in a way, it's only going to make my relationships with the companions and other characters feel that much more valuable and meaningful, and sometimes even fragile, which is kind of realistic. Now, save scumming in combat can be a little different here, because when you get into a combat encounter in BG3, if you wipe, you do have to do it again. In most of the non-combat situations, if you screw up, there's still a playable, oftentimes interesting outcome for you to experience and continue on with. In combat, a wipe means game over, and the game forces you to reload, and save scumming can of course save some time if you absolutely know that you're going to wipe. Now, with that said, I do think that most people underestimate themselves, and their threshold for when they think all hope is lost is way too low. I want to encourage some of you to play combat encounters out further, because I would say that in 75+% of the encounters where you think that you're absolutely screwed, there is still a solution that can be found or even created that will still allow you to be victorious. If you save scum immediately when you get that feeling that you may be screwed, or if you save scum at even the slightest hint of losing your advantage, you're never really forced to try to think of creative out-of-the-box solutions, or even just different solutions from what you would typically do. Those of you that watch my streams, some of the most exciting, rewarding, and fun combat encounters tend to be the ones where everything goes wrong, but I stick with it and still somehow come out victorious most of the time. Well, many times, and those many times are worth it in my opinion. If things are not going well for you, then maybe it's time to start looking into the items that you're carrying in your bag that you forgot that you have. Maybe it's time to try a crazy jump play. Maybe it's time to use that ability that you never really took the time to try to understand before. These tough situations force you to learn and be creative. If you just constantly reload, you're depriving yourself of a lot of potentially really fun, rewarding experiences. For the final part of this video, I'll quickly touch on why I said that I may save scum 1% of the time. And this comes down to games having limitations, and of course games not being perfect. Sometimes when you do something, a game doesn't always give you a logical, rational consequence. If something like this occurs where I'm like, yeah, that actually doesn't make any sense at all, I may consider save scumming. There's also a few games, and off the top of my head I can think of Mass Effect 1, I think, and maybe a few of the Dragon Age games, where you can choose a dialogue option, but then your character says something a little different from what you chose in the dialogue options, and it does it in a way that does kind of change things. Sometimes that may also warrant a save scum, because the game basically lied to you in a way. And that'll be it for today's video. Hopefully, those of you guys that were maybe on the edge as to where you stand with save scumming, maybe I was able to push you in one direction or a different direction from what I tried to do. I really do think there's something special about that first playthrough, just really being a part of the world and living out that story, and not playing like the computer coder god character that can just leave the game and rewind things and try things a million different times. So thank you guys so much for watching, and of course, I know there's going to be comments where people get pissed that I'm making fun of save scumming when I really don't care what you do in your game. Do whatever makes you happy. That's really all that it comes down to. I'll catch you on the next one.